Anchors up, sails at full. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
All right, Jared. Doing all right. How are you doing today?
Doing good. All right. We're going to do a mock class today, but not before I say it's a new tradition. It's a good tradition. And crack open this beer. All right. Now we're ready.
All right. Spring camp is well underway. Had quite a few different scrimmages, different
Not yet, Stuart.
black stripes removed, and Student Appreciation Day as well. Here, I'm not going to cover too much about those, but it's kind of important to note some of the things that's come out recently here.
Sure.
So let's start on the recruiting trail here. Since last we talked, we've had a couple of commitments here, and apologize if I'm missing one in here, but I believe if I'm going back to my notes here, going back to safety Bradford committed to Ohio State, big commit there, rated as the best safety for pretty much the majority of different recruiting sites out there, out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Don't get too many. Don't get too many from that state there. So big get for the Buckeyes there. Chris Henry Jr. shuts down his recruitment. Safe to say that he's going to be joining the team in scarlet and gray here. Also another safety, this time down in Jacksonville, Simeon Caldwell, who's a nephew of Tim Walton.
Yep.
And Ohio State did get another addition in state of linebacker CJ Sanna from Lewis Center. And I believe that's all. I'm not sure if there's another one that we're missing too. Yeah.
That depends upon the last time we talked. I don't remember the last time we did a recruiting episode, to be honest with you. So I don't know whether those are all of the people who have committed since the last time we talked, if I'm being super honest with you.
Ohio State didn't get that many in March, honestly. And so I'm going through, I'm looking at when people have committed it and all that here. And yeah, I feel pretty confident that we are now up to date.
Okay. Kyle is giving it his seal of approval of being up to date. So you know what? That's quite frankly all I need. All right. You ready to get into the mock?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Let me change screens. Our mock is on the screen. The font might be a tiny bit small for the people watching at home, depending upon if you're watching the size of the monitor you're watching this on. But don't worry, we'll be going through all of it because we also have to take care of our audio only folk. So don't you worry, we'll be talking through all of this. Jared, what do the colors mean? Thank you for asking, Austin. The people in red font are commits. Those are people who have already committed. There you go. Where do you want to start, Kyle?
Well, let's start from the top. Let's do one of the most important positions here that we've talked about for well over a year here. The slobs, the offensive linemen here.
Sure.
Let's start with those. So Ohio State does have 2 commits currently right now with
3 if you count the entire offensive line.
Sure, yes. Tackle Sam Greer and Tucker Smith, and interior lineman Maxwell Riley. Some pretty good names already there, but I think Ohio State's quite done yet. And with the scholarship limit going to 105, I expect Ohio State to continue bringing in more talent to the offensive linemen.
All right. Um,
So what do you got here that in your mock here, Jared? Who else do you have coming to Ohio State?
sorry, were we talking interior or tackles?
I'll let you decide. I said the slogs
Okay.
as a whole, so I'll let you choose where you would like to lead off.
Let's talk about the offensive tackle. And maybe let's just talk for a moment also about the new scholarship limit, which is that there is none. The scholarship limit is gone. However, the rosters are now set at 105 instead of what used to be 115. Let's give a shout out to Tyler Bowen, who's been doing a banger job so far. He absolutely has been. So the scholarship limit has essentially gone from 85 to 105, practically speaking. Everyone can get a scholarship now, but the roster's only 105 people big. That's our trade-off. I have said on a few recruiting episodes in a row now that because offensive linemen are, I was going to say one of, but not one of. Offensive linemen are the toughest position to project from one level to another level, period. And by my math, if the old recruiting classes used to be 25, that's about where we used to put a recruiting class, at about 25 players, just on average, which was approximately 25 is approximately 30% of the overall 85 limit. There's some rounding in there, but it's close enough to true. So I'm now projecting classes at about 32 to 33, as 32 to 33 is approximately 30% of the new 105 limit. So, and again, because offensive linemen are the toughest to project going from one level to another level, in my mind, you should be stacking up on offensive linemen. That should be where a lot of your extra resources, your extra scholarships should be going, is to the offensive line. So I am going with a 7-man, and also only had 3 offensive linemen in last year's class. 2026 class, the 2025 class only had 3 offensive linemen in it. Now they do go and supplement that with 2 high-profile transfer portal guys, but one of those guys is gone after this year.
Mm-hmm.
So they only bring in 3 people last year. I think this needs to be a big offensive line class. So with all those things considered, that's why I have 7 offensive linemen in the mock. As Kyle pointed out, Sam Greer from Ohio, Maxwell Riley from Ohio, and Tucker Smith from Arizona already committed in this class. I'm going to round that out with 4 additional names. From Texas, interior offensive lineman Drew Evers. From Florida, offensive lineman Micah Smith. Now, I will say about Micah Smith, kind of a tweener, kind of a hybrid player. Might be a tackle, might be an interior guy, might be a guy who plays both depending upon where you need him. For the sake of this mock, however, I'm going to be counting him as an interior guy. Is it possible that Ohio State maybe goes 3 interior, 3 offensive tackles, and then throw Micah Smith in there as a swing player? Could go either way. Also possible. For the sake of this mock, in April, I'm going to put Micah Smith as an interior guy. So that's a 3-person interior class. Maxwell Riley from Ohio, Drew Evers from Texas, and Micah Smith from Florida. A lot of apparent energy and getting out ahead of the class. All you can ask for in April. I mean, there are big like commitment seasons and spring practice is one of those like big commitment seasons. The other big commitment season you'll see is essentially like the weeks leading up to when players start to do two-a-days in high school, because a lot of kids want to get that out of the way before then. That's another big like stretch where you see a lot of commitments. Yeah. So offensive tackle, Sam Greer, Tucker Smith already in the fold. I've added Londre Breedy in the class as well. Breedy could in theory play interior as well. And I do currently have Jackson Cantwell, arguably, maybe inarguably the best offensive lineman in the class currently in Ohio State's class. It's a big swing. I would be thrilled. I'd be absolutely thrilled if this plays out. Austin says Cantwell would be a dream. He's probably a day one starter. Might be. He's actually capable of it. And I don't say that a lot about offensive tackles.
There's
Possibly,
a very small room.
Probably.
That's a very small room of people that fit that.
It doesn't, at big programs, that doesn't happen too often. It does not happen too often. And then when it does happen, it also doesn't happen successfully. An even smaller subset of when it goes well. In the short list of just sort of other players to mention, Ohio State has a really good relationship with Darius Gray, who is considered the number one interior player in the country right now.
He just had a visit with Ohio State.
He did.
Just this weekend here.
He absolutely did.
And Ohio State put out the VIP rug for him. So we'll see. I know it's still a long shot for Ohio State to get him, but you never know.
Yeah. I'd keep an eye on Deron Parks, who is currently playing in Florida, but was playing in West Virginia not that long ago. So kind of a regional kid. Tyler Merrill from Pennsylvania, I'd still keep an eye on. Will Conroy from Ohio, who has committed elsewhere, but I don't necessarily consider commitments are real cheap nowadays. And I'm going to say that about the guys who are currently committed to Ohio State as well, especially once we get over to the defensive side. Commitments are real cheap nowadays. It is what it is. Cause I mean, there was always people flipping. That has happened for as long as recruiting's been a thing. Cause now, you go from a top 10 to a top 5 to a top 3 to a committed to a shutting down my recruitment. And then on top of that, the transfer portal still is just a thing now. So commitments are real cheap. Keep an eye on Will Conroy, despite the fact he is currently committed elsewhere. Same thing I'd say with Adam Guthrie, who is another great another great state of Ohio offensive lineman who is currently committed elsewhere. Wouldn't be shocked to see him brought back into the fold. Keep an eye on Felix Ojo. Probably going to go to Texas, but he's one of the best offensive linemen in the country. Probably going to Texas though. Evan Goodwin from Arkansas, Aaron Thomas from Arizona, 2 other offensive tackle names to keep an eye on. Where do you want to go next, Kyle?
Kind of a slop, kind of not.
Okay.
let's do the tight end here. Let's do the tight ends.
Already
we got one. Yep, we got one here. Fordham. Is already committed to Ohio State here. Do have anybody else that's on your list here or on your mock?
Several people. I not in the mock. I have several people on the short list. I don't necessarily know at this time if Ohio State wants one or two in this class. I have a long list of guys on the short list. Not a great sentence. To keep an eye on if they do go with a second player. I'm just going to roll through these real quick. From Ohio, you have Colby Simpson, PJ McFarland, and Braden Fogel. From North Carolina, DJ Howerton, and from Iowa, Evan Jacobson. Guys to keep an eye on. Again, I'm not even 100% sure if Ohio State even wants a second tight end in this class, but some other relationships they still have active.
All right. All right. Well, what 5-star wide receivers has Ohio State got here? Chris Henry. Chris Henry is. Yep, Chris Henry.
Who has recently shut down his recruitment.
Yes, he has. And he was planned on like an additional,
which is like a
3 or
double
4
commit.
visits. Yes, it does.
He had been visiting Oregon a lot, and while I was never all that nervous about it, he was visiting Oregon a lot. So tall. Yes, he's a very tall young man. Yeah, I mean, he was going to Oregon a lot. Like, yeah, but I was honestly never that concerned about it. As far as I'm concerned, Chris Henry isn't going anywhere as long as Ryan Day's the head coach and Brian Hartline's the wide receiver coach. As long as those two things are in place, Chris Henry's not going anywhere.
6'5".
Yes, sir. Jaden Ricketts, a wide receiver from the state of Ohio, already committed to this class. I'm projecting this as a 4 wide receiver class. But there are a lot of potential guys out there who could fill those last two spots. Chris Henry shuts down recruitment and Nike stock tanks. Coincidence? Absolutely. Right now in the mock, I have from North Carolina, Brody Keefe, and from New York, Messiah Hampton. That being said, from New Jersey, Amari Saab, keep an eye on him. From California, Caden Dixon Wyatt, absolutely keep an eye out for him. Jaquaden Guilford from Indiana, keep an eye on. And 2 Ohio kids who my understanding is that Heartline likes them a lot. So if we'll see. But 2 Ohio kids, Peyton Cook and Justin Hodge.
All right, let's go with the running backs here. I'll be honest, I haven't looked too much into the running backs here, so I'm gonna trust in everything you say here, Jared. So what do you got for the running backs?
I'll say this: I feel great about. I feel better about Ohio State's chances with him than I do about my ability to pronounce his name. I'll tell you that much. From Ohio, Favour Akih. I'm going Favour Akih. That's how I'm going to attempt to pronounce that. I think his commitment is imminent. I think you probably expect a commitment here in not too long. Feel highly confident he ends up joining the Ohio State class. The second, and I do think they take 2 running backs, at least 2 running backs.
Favour Akih.
Akih. That was close.
Favour Akih.
The second running back slot. Esquire says Favour has been living at the Woody, it feels. Yeah, very, very much so. The second running back spot, I'm currently going with, from Florida, Derek Cooper. Do I feel great about Derek Cooper specifically? Not necessarily. I think Ohio State has a really good relationship with Cooper. I think they have a really good relationship with Hitter from Virginia, and recent offer from Maryland, Damian Ferguson, as well as additional Ohio player Sean Alston. I could see in the long run that second running back slot going to any one of those four guys. I for the sake of the mock, I picked one, and I picked Derek Cooper. But honestly, I don't feel great. I don't feel great about any one of those four players individually, but I feel very good that it will be one of those four players eventually. As good as you can feel in April, at least.
All right, and the quarterback here, Jared.
Quarterback position's real up in the air right now. Ohio State has last two classes between Simeon and St. Clair have two top flight quarterbacks who they just recruited. They already have a top flight quarterback committed for the 2007 class. Excuse me. I'm getting old. The 2027 class. So they're kind of in a spot with the 2026 class where, you know, they had a really good relationship with some top flight quarterbacks, but that is, it's hard to recruit a top flight quarterback when you have him bookend between two top flight quarterbacks already. So, you know, guys like Dybell, other top flight quarterbacks who they had really good relations. I'm not feeling it. They're not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. So some additional names to keep an eye on. If I had to pick one, which is what we're doing today in this mock, I am in fact having to pick one. Going with Matt Ponatoski, quarterback from Ohio. I'd also keep an eye out on another quarterback from Ohio named Nathan Bernhard. On top of, additionally, Derek Zamet and Jet Tamila. I know I'm probably mispronouncing that one as well, who's from Nebraska of all places. I'd give the two Ohio kids largely because they're from Ohio, if I'm being honest. I give them the slight edge as far as ending up in this class eventually, but those are the four names I have for you right now.
All right. Sounds good. And that is your offensive line.
Or
not line, offense in general here. There it is. All right, we'll go ahead and take our first ad break here, and we'll cover the defense here. So we are the Buckeye Sloopcast. You can find more information on over at thesloopcast.com. Thesloopcast.com is a campsite that has all of our other links to our Patreon, patreon.thesloopcast.com, Discord, YouTube, merch, Spotify. All of the links you can find over at thesloopcast.com. I had to try that again there. So yeah, with that being said, we'll take our first ad break and be right back to talk about the defense.
And we're back. All right, Kyle, where do you want to start on the defensive side? And by the way, I also want to point out, one, I forgot to change the font color over here on the defensive side for the guys who have committed. So I'll get that fixed as we go. But I also have a little bit of special teams on this side of the mock as well.
All right. Well, let's start with the safeties, mainly because of the big commits that recently Ohio State has had. So let's start with the safeties here. Mentioned at the top of the show, Bradford and Caldwell. I'm sorry, not Caldwell. I'm sorry. Bradford was the latest commit for Ohio State here, as well as Jacob Weatherspoon is another safety that committed to Ohio State as well. So two safeties already in this class here.
And Caldwell.
Oh yeah, Caldwell. I'm for some reason
probably because
I saw a thing it said he had him as a linebacker, but could be a safety too. Yeah,
Caldwell.
Gotcha. Yes,
Caldwell might be a linebacker. He might be a safety. Jacob Witherspoon, who you mentioned as a safety, I have as a cornerback in the mock. That's not because you're wrong. That's because he's a bit of a tweener.
Yeah.
So there's some, a little bit of tweening happening with the positions. So obviously forgive you for your stuff not looking exactly like my stuff because
3 defensive backs. How about that? 3 different defensive backs.
But Caldwell might be a linebacker. 3 non-defensive linemen. Does that work?
Well, then you got to put in CJ Sanna as well in there too. So CJ is another one there.
I tell you what, let's go with what's on the screen. How about that?
There we go.
4 guys that will play during 7-on-7s. There you go.
Perfect.
Let's go with what's on the screen for the sake of allowing everyone to follow along at home. Safeties. Blaine Bradford, widely considered the best safety in this class, was a bit of a shock. I wasn't expecting if we were doing this mock last week, I wouldn't have had Bradford in the mock, like straight up. And I'm not going to pretend like I would have. I was shocked. I think a lot of people were shocked. Happy, but shocked. Caldwell, on the other hand, I've had Caldwell in the mock forever. I mean, the fact that he's Tim Walton's nephew alone plays a huge role in this. It's not a deciding factor, as certain running back coaches in Ohio State's past has proven. It's not a deciding factor, but it was huge, obviously. And the other thing is, and this kind of leans into is Caldwell a linebacker? Is Caldwell a safety sort of confusion? I have Ohio State leading with Bralan Womack still too, who is another one of the best safeties in the country. And I think I said before, Bradford's considered like the best safety in the country by many. Womack. Womack's considered the best safety in the country by many. But yeah, as of right now, if I consider Caldwell a safety and if I consider Weatherspoon to be a cornerback, which for the sake of this mock, that's how I'm doing it. I feel good about this 3 safety lineup of Bradford, Womack, and Caldwell. That being said, Ohio State has a really good relationship with Zayden McDonald, Donovan Webb, among other players in the safety position. Keep an eye out on Jet Washington, Malcolm Shabazz, Zach Fort. Don't count those guys out either. But for right now, I'm going Bradford, Caldwell, and Womack.
All right. I guess we will go to, I don't know. I'll let you decide. Where do you want to go next year?
Let's stay with the defensive backs and go to corners.
All right.
I already talked about Jacob Witherspoon, the cornerback / safety defensive back, maybe a nickel guy. Maybe that's, our nickel position's kind of half corner, half safety. So you might be looking at a nickel back here with Jacob Witherspoon from Ohio. I have another kid from Ohio. Actually, Kyle, all 4 of these players, all 4 of these corners are from Ohio. Let's just get that out of the way. Elbert Hill, feel great about Hill eventually joining Ohio State. Feel free to pencil that in. Feel great there. Malachi Taylor, I feel very good about. Not as good as Hill, but I feel very good about it. And I still have Victor Singleton in the mock. Those of you who follow recruiting probably know Victor Singleton committed to Illinois a little while back. And I'm not saying he's definitely coming to Ohio State because I don't know that. But I'll be goddamn surprised if he ends up at Illinois. That's all I'm saying. I will be goddamn surprised if he ends up at Illinois. I'll believe that one when he's actually wearing an Illinois uniform and the ball's in play. That's all I'm saying. And just in case you're like, Jared, I really don't think Victor Singleton's coming to Ohio State, but I really wanted 4 cornerbacks from the state of Ohio. May I introduce you to Amir Miller, who is the first player I have in the short list, also from the state of Ohio. And just in case we can't, and maybe Jacob Witherspoon's not a corner. So we do have some non-Ohio kids in the cornerback mock, at least, well, in the short list, I should say. I have Havin Finley from the state of California, and keep a close eye on New Jersey cornerback Jordan Thomas as well.
All right. Well, let's just keep going down the line here. Let's look at the linebacker here. Got one commit right now in CJ Sanna, mentioned earlier here from the great state of Ohio. I know that Ohio has some other really good linebackers as well that Ohio State has some interest in as well.
Really good linebacker class in the state of Ohio. Sincere Johnson, I'm just gonna be honest with you, I'm surprised he hasn't committed yet. Is that me misreading it, or is Sincere just taking his time? We'll find out.
He's rated the 6th best linebacker in the country here, and the 3rd best in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, it's 3rd best overall in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised he hasn't committed yet. That's my take on Sincere Johnson. Is that good news or is that bad news? I'll let you decide how to read that. But I'm surprised he hasn't committed yet. Then I go outside of the state of Ohio to North Carolina for Elijah Littlejohn. Don't do it. Don't anyone do it. The joke's too easy. Don't do it. It's too easy. He's heard it before, I promise. Don't yell yeah at me. Don't yell what at me. Never make fun of someone's name. And that's not a moral thing. I'm not saying you shouldn't do that morally. I'm saying they've heard it 1,000 times and you're just going to be another person who's made the joke. Don't do it. Don't make fun of his name. I was going to go Robin Hood and Littlejohn. Brave to admit that you're old. As if making a Littlejohn joke isn't just millennial core. Anyway, linebackers on the short list. Surprise.
Love the first name. Love the first name here, Jared.
It's a good name, and surprise, he committed to Texas A&M recently, which I didn't expect. Had I done this mock a week or 2 ago, I would have had, being totally honest with you, would have had Storm Miller in there instead of Littlejohn. Like I just straight up would have had that. And if you follow the mock that I keep active in the Discord server, that was the case. I took Storm Miller out. I put Elijah Littlejohn in. Do I think that it's over, said and done with as far as Storm Miller goes? I do not. Commitments are cheap. especially at Texas A&M, where they're very expensive, but also kind of cheap. Another great pair of linebackers from the state of Ohio, Kobe Clapper and Cam Thomas. I was struggling real hard between putting either Cam Thomas or Elijah Littlejohn in the mock. Was struggling there. Didn't necessarily know. I do in my mind. Just know it was a hard choice for me. I think Cam Thomas is that possible. I do think Littlejohn is that possible. And again, depending upon where you put Caldwell, I don't really see him taking 5 linebackers, maybe 4 linebackers if one of them's a tweener, but I really don't see him taking 5 linebackers. So again, we're going to consider Caldwell a safety for right now. And I'm going to go a 3 linebacker class, Sanna, Johnson, Littlejohn, but keep a close eye on Cam Thomas for sure. And I also would keep a close eye on Jake Eberhardt and Kenneth Goodwin from Missouri and Nevada, respectively.
All right. No commits on the defensive line so far here. I think
no, sir.
From what I've seen here, defensive line is not a strong suit in the state of Ohio for this year. So I think Ohio State's going to have to go outside to bring in some talent here. So where do you think Ohio State's going to land that talent?
I think they're going to the state of North Carolina.
Yeah, surprisingly, North Carolina has some really good recruits this year.
It helps that 2 of them are twins. It does help. I mean, just statistically speaking, if a pair of twins who I currently have labeled as defensive ends in the mock, although I have seen, I believe it's Andrew Harris, who is sometimes referred to as more of a defensive lineman, defensive tackle. But for the sake of this mock, I'm going to call them both defensive ends. They are elite players. They are excellent football players. I don't believe in package recruiting. You hear it all the time. Oh, these 2 cornerbacks, they say they're going to be a package. Unless they're twins. When they're twins, I think there's a lot more to thinking that a pair of recruits are a package. So,
well, I hear that like Auburn is another landing spot for those 2 as well.
Yeah, Auburn's in play. These 2 are not certain by any means. I'm not penciling them in. They're not sure things. But I would keep an eye on the Harris twins for sure. As of right now, I'm putting them in the class.
Yeah, North Carolina has 3 players in the top 20 and 5 in the top 50 overall, which is surprising. Like North Carolina doesn't typically have that many great recruits.
That's been changing. That's really been changing.
And seven in the top 70 as well. So
yeah, I mean, I don't have to tell you this, Kyle, but the population in North Carolina is growing, and especially in the urban centers and the suburban centers. So, it's just sort of the population shift that's been underway for decades as far as people moving to the coast and to the South and yada, yada, yada. So I would say the talent in North Carolina as a state has been very steadily on the rise. And another defensive end from the state of North Carolina, Keyshawn Elsner. Leisner. I don't know. Correct me. If you're watching this on YouTube or if you're in our Discord server, let me know how you would pronounce that name. I'm obviously struggling. And then a 4th defensive end, again, because I think some of these guys might bounce in. 1 or 2 of these guys could potentially be like a 3-gap, defensive tackle. I have from Georgia, Cam Brooks. So, we're going to call them defensive ends because they're called defensive ends in the recruiting databases. We could see one or two of those guys move into the 3-tech defensive tackle, which is why I only have 2 defensive tackles in the class. But let's talk about the short list defensive ends first. Kyle, in the short list for defensive ends, I have yet another player from the state of North Carolina. Zavon Griffith Haynes.
That school there, Roseville, has a lot of talent. They have a lot of talent, which, by the way, I'm not talking about the 2027 class, but Roseville has a very, very talented running back, Amir Brown, as well. I may, if I'm not too busy this fall, I may try to catch a game there.
You're going to be too busy.
Yeah, I probably will.
Yeah. Maybe we'll tell the people why in Kyle's corner, but that's your call.
Maybe. We'll see.
Two more defensive ends. Keep an eye on that I have in the short list.
Or join the Discord.
Or join the Discord and find out why Kyle's been so busy lately. From Maryland and currently committed to the University of Maryland, Zion Lee, and from California, Sean Scott. I don't expect the Zion Lee to Maryland commitment to stick. I'm not saying he's coming to Ohio State. I'm just saying I kind of like Victor Singleton. I'm not expecting that one to stick. For the defensive tackles, again, I only have 2 defensive tackles. Again, because I think you're going to have some of the defensive ends slot over. You have Deuce Geralds from the state of Georgia, and from the state of Virginia, Elijah Golden. In the short list for defensive tackles, I have from New Jersey, Luke Waffle, from New Jersey, DeMar Simeon, and from New York, Preston Carey. And Kyle, that's our defensive mock. Let's do one more ad break. We'll talk a tiny bit of special teams, and then we'll take a look at some other Ohio State stuff before we end the show. So let's jump over. Let's do a quick ad. Kyle nailed all the ad read stuff the first time around. We don't need to do another big one here. Just visit thesloopcast.com to find a link to all. You go to thesloopcast.com. That's the link where you find all the other links. Just go see what we have to offer there. If anything Kyle said before sounds like something you want to check out, check it out. Kyle, I got kickers in the mock. I got 2 kickers. I have 1 kicker in the mock and 1 kicker in the short list. It's worth noting, a lot of the times you say, oh, a kicker, are they going to get a scholarship offer? Are they going to be a what? Well, there's no such thing anymore. Theoretically, everyone's on scholarship now. So from the state of Ohio, we have Jonathan Hewitt. And just in case that doesn't work out, from the state of Florida, we have Noah Seiden. I'm going to go Seiden. Could be Seiden. I'm going to go Seiden. And that, Kyle, finishes our mock.
Let's talk about this year's team with the spring camp here. It's just some overall things that I was able to look up, and just kind of want a quick response from you. Nothing long here.
Okay.
Simeon Holes outperformed Sayin on the scrimmage that happened recently here. Mm-hmm.
That's been
overreaction, or you think there's some concern here? What's your thought about that?
I would say that pretty much everyone who was there is reporting that Keenholz had a better day. I'll say this. my understanding, Sayan didn't get a lot of help from his squad. I think Link has a good deep ball. And I think if you need someone to go in there and toss some deep balls, I think Link could be your guy. If you're looking for someone to go in there and run Ryan Day's offense, from a timing perspective, go in there, be a rhythm quarterback, be a timing quarterback, put all that stuff together. To me, that guy is still saying.
Just saying.
Just saying. Speaking of jokes that are a little too easy.
Yeah. Bo Jackson shines as well here.
Yeah. And this is good news, not just because like, hey, a freshman looked good in a scrimmage. So obviously that's good news, right? But Jackson missed much of his senior year due to an injury. And we didn't necessarily know, I believe it was his knee, the condition of his knee coming into camp. So, there were a couple injury concerns for the young running backs coming in. To know that Bo Jackson is not just looking good, but is just available. Just that he is available as a running back, as a competent, good running back in the spring, let alone the fall, is great news. Because not only did he look good in the scrimmage, but apparently he was full contact. He wasn't getting babied. He wasn't wearing a no contact jersey. He's out there playing football, which just from an injury perspective is fantastic news.
Yep. All right. And we have 6 black stripe removals. 6 of them. Redshirt freshman was the first one this year. Miles Lockhart, cornerback. Max Clare, junior tight end.
So just quick 2 notes on those 2 guys. One of them is a red shirt from the previous class, and obviously another is the transfer from Purdue, the tight end.
Yep. On the next 3 here are all redshirt freshmen as well. Dominic Kirks, defensive end. Simon Lawrence, offensive lineman, and Eric Mensah, defensive tackle. And our first true freshman.
Yeah.
Just Saturday, wide receiver Quincy Porter.
Speaking of things I would have been wrong about had you asked me to predict, and this is no knock on Porter at all, who I think is next. Like I'm not the next, wide receiver at Ohio State. I think it's Quincy Porter. So no disrespect to him whatsoever.
6'4", 205. That's a big wide receiver. You talk about just throwing it up and letting somebody go and catch the ball.
Yeah.
But ask for a better target.
Absolutely. But had you asked me last week or 2 weeks ago who I thought the first among the freshmen who would lose their black stripe, I probably would have said Devin Sanchez. He's been having a hell of a spring. So I'm a little bit surprised. Again, not in a disrespectful way towards Porter at all. Sanchez was the easy money for, the freshman who was going to lose their black stripe first.
Sure. I think he's made some good throws here. Don't hear a lot. Again, true freshman, hard for really a freshman quarterback to really stand out. It's really hard for them to do, but St. Clair has looked decent.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't anticipate that he's going to get a ton of playing time this year by any means, but you never know how injuries play out. And you also never know how transfers work out.
Yep.
Link has had a lot of good buzz this spring. What happens if he wins the job? How does Sayan react to that? Or for that matter, what if Sayan is officially given the job at the end of spring? How does Link react to that? Or even if both Sayan and Lincoln both, make it all the way to the first game of the year against Texas, injuries are still a thing. So you need 3 quarterbacks, especially in this new, longer college football season. I mean, hopefully you don't need 3 quarterbacks, but you might.
Yeah.
And again, especially when 2 of them are in a pretty heated quarterback battle, and you might lose the second stringer to the portal. These are very real possibilities. So don't toss away St. Clair looks really good. That's important. That's very important.
It is. All right. I think that's it. I think that's all I want to cover here. Yeah, I think I'm good here.
Cool. I think I'm good too. So the question is, do you have anything in Kyle's corner?
Well, you can find out. If you come on over to discord.theswiftcast.com and we can talk. We can chat.
Ask Kyle what his big news is at discord.thesloopcast.com. All right. That's it. That's our show. Question mark? That's it. That's our show.
That is our show.
That is our show. All right. We will, we didn't necessarily plan it this way, but things have been just sort of working out in such a way that we've been going like every other week so far during this off season. Kyle and I had been talking to some of the people in Discord lately that we were going to maybe cut back a bit. We just don't necessarily know what that looks like as an in-season podcast yet. And again, I'm not saying for sure that we're going to be going every other week during the off season. But I can tell you that we will not be posting next week. So don't look for an episode next week. And again, I'm absolutely not saying that we're sticking to this every other week thing, because we didn't even plan it that way. It's just kind of been working out that way. So,
yep.
But I can tell you for sure right now, there won't be another episode next week. So with all that being said, I have to do the band first. Tonight's ending music will be brought to you by, let me do this off the top of my head. Let's do Playing to Vapors. I think I've done a Playing to Vapors in a minute. So let's do ending music, Playing to Vapors. So with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support local podcasters. Once again, these are Playing to Vapors.